Hello, pretty ladies and handsome gents, and welcome to my channel. It's been a while. I am Cole Ann, and this was supposed to be, a journey for me to lose weight. It's been well over a year, and I sincerely apologize for that, but, life happens, and it definitely has happened to me in this past year, a little over a year. So I guess I have to get you all updated on my life and where this strange thing has taken me this far. Anyway, I had to take a break because December of 2021, right at the end of December, right before New Year's, I lost my sister and my niece in a house fire, and so instant tears, but that has been extremely hard for me and my family. And there is just something about grief. It does something to your body. Stress in general does something to your body, but grief just has a way of getting down to your very soul, and to lose someone that you're extremely close to and a close part of your family, I don't think the pain ever goes away. I can say it's been over a year and you would think that the pain gets easier, but it doesn't. You just learn to live with the new norm. And it's very difficult to live with the new norm, especially because life continues to happen and the stress of living continues to happen. So not only am I dealing with that loss, and, maybe it does help that, after all these years that I'm finally able to make that kind of announcement and not completely fall apart. So there is saying something about like time allows you to, like I said, you get used to the new normal. But this year I kept getting sick, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was in an extreme amount of pain, and I feel like I have a high tolerance for pain because like I'm the type of person where I'll be in pain, but I'll still go to work. Like I'm a hard worker. I don't believe in calling off. I love what I do. I work with kids. And so, I didn't want to let them down. So I was going to be there for them because they needed me. And I kind of overlooked the self-care aspect of, myself, and just continued to go to work. And a lady came up to me and was like, "You look like you're in a lot of pain." And I was like, "I am." So I was getting to the point where people were noticing how much pain that I was in. And it got to the point where I would walk down the hallway and I could feel my inflamed organs just bouncing off of each other. And at that point, I was like, I have to go to the emergency room, because I was trying not to. I was hoping that it would just go away, because I was in between insurance. I had insurance at my last job, but I was now in a new job, and the insurance through the new job was just cost way too much for me to be able to afford. And so I was like waiting for, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, to open up for me to be able to afford insurance to get looked at. And I just didn't have that yet. This was in September, whenever I finally went to the hospital and I got diagnosed with diverticulitis. And I don't know if anybody has ever had diverticulitis. It is so painful. It is so painful. It's an infection in your intestines. And I just felt pain all over. Usually people feel pain just on one side. Me, I felt pain all over. And whenever they did the CT scan and they found that diverticulitis, they also saw that I had a mass coming from my left ovary. And that was a significant size. And I have dealt with ovarian cysts and fibroids pretty much my whole life. It was just, you know, the part of the normal for me. So I didn't think much of it. And, but they had to address that in order to address the diverticulitis. And so I talked to the doctors, and they discussed, you know, a hysterectomy, which, you know, my heart, because I'm 40, I just turned 41. So like, I still had hopes to meet the love of my life and have a family with them. But, you know, reality set in, and I'd rather not be in the amount of pain that I was in. So, you know, hysterectomy was definitely on the table. And to, you know, cut away the disease bowel from the diverticulitis. So that was the plan. They wanted to, once I got healed, because I was hospitalized for this. I was hospitalized. I was on antibiotics for a month. And once I got better, they wanted to see me so that they can schedule these surgeries or whatnot that I would need for myself. So I needed to have a consultation. So I had scheduled to go meet with the doctors November 22nd. Got there, and because I'm not used to dealing with health systems, like I've never been sick ever in my life, so like I don't know anything. And they're like, oh, you don't have insurance, the copay is going to be $200. And I was meeting with 2 doctors that day, and I asked, you know, is it $200 for both doctors? And they're like, yes, it's the hospital policy. Well, I was thinking that I needed, you know, the $200 then and there that day. And it's like, I could possibly see one doctor. I definitely couldn't afford to see both doctors. I just don't got it like that. Anyway, so I just went home. I went home, even though like I finally felt like I was getting better, but the pain was coming back. And so I thought I was having another flare up, like I was having a flare up right after the first flare up. And so I went back home. I felt so defeated. I cried. I did. I'm a big crybaby. You know, I'll never present that to anybody in public, but I am a huge crybaby. And I went home, I cried, you know, just feeling defeated and just upset, because I'm like, you know, am I going home to die? Like, this pain is coming back. And anybody who dealt with diverticulitis pain, it is serious. Anyway, so that was November 22nd, whenever I was supposed to go visit with the doctors and I wasn't able to. Went home. November 26th, by November 26th, I was in so much pain that I could not get up. I could not get up. I tried to get up all day long, like just to sit up. And to move to sit up, I felt the most excruciating, sharp pain. I describe it as having like a Charlie horse set in, like my muscles would immediately start clenching, and on both sides, like on the left side and the right side of my abdomen, I just felt like this severe cramp. It was sharp and just, it hurt so bad. And it took me all day to get up to go to the bathroom for the first time that day. So it's like, not only was I unable to get up, I was unable to like care for myself. I was bad. I was bad. But I didn't have insurance, so I wasn't trying to go to the doctor. I was just, you know, just because I had trouble getting up the whole entire week. So this was just another day. But this time, by the time I got up, it was like 7 p.m. And when I got up, I started to black out. And so I was like, I'm about to pass out from the pain. And so I called my sister, and God bless her, because she works from like before sun up to sundown. Like, she'll work a 12-hour day. And so she was just getting off of work, and I said, hey, I need to go to the emergency room again because the pain was getting worse, and that was the worst it had ever been, and I thought I was going to pass out. So she took me to the hospital. They did another CT scan. It was November 26th. I'll never forget that date because of the CT scan and what it showed. And he said, you know, your diverticulitis is cleared. And I thought for sure that that's what it was again. And he's like, the pain is probably coming from those masses that you have, the fibroids and you know, the mass that was on my ovary. And I was like floored because I didn't think that, you know, they would cause that kind of pain. And so now my head was definitely switched into a different gear. And I'm like, I need to definitely get these masses taken care of. I had no more qualms about a hysterectomy. I was like, I will get this hysterectomy happily to never experience this kind of pain ever again in my life. And so I was finally able to get Obamacare, but it was for January. So this is November. So I'm like, I have to wait till January in order to see a doctor. So I made my appointments to see the gynecologist because now that was my priority because that's where this pain is coming from. I need to get these suckers out. And it was like a waiting game. But in that waiting game, you know, I started having different symptoms. So I was in and out of the hospital. And the hospital's basically saying, you know, there's nothing we can do. You know, you have to see a gynecologist. I don't even know why you're coming back here because you had all the tests. You know what you need to do. But my symptoms kept getting worse. It was like not only was I crampy, now when I went pee, I would feel that same crampy pain just going pee. And then I was severely constipated. It was like a weird kind of constipation. I'll tell you what it is. And if you ever feel this, be scared, be very afraid. It would feel like I had to go number 2. It would feel like it's about to come out, but it would not come out. That's the kind of constipation. And if something did come out, it'd be like little nuggets. Nothing. I worked as a nursing assistant, and not being able to move your bowels is a red flag in that industry. And so I'm freaking out. I am completely terrified because I'm like, what is going on? Something's completely wrong. And I would go back to the hospital and they say, oh, nothing. And I got so frustrated, you know, like when I get pissed off, I literally can't talk. And so they were discharging me again from the emergency room. And I was just so frustrated and so mad that I just couldn't even talk to them. I said, I'm mad. And they're giving me their discharge, you know, thing that they say whenever they're discharging you. Like, if you could have any other symptoms. And that's whenever I just lost it. I said, that's why I'm here. Why do you think I'm here? I'm not coming just because I'm in pain. I'm coming because the symptoms have changed. I have this weird constipation. When I pee, it hurts. And you're not listening. And that's when she said, you know, next time you feel that, go to the women's hospital. They will take care of you there. Because up to this point, I was going to like local hospitals. Like I wasn't going to my local hospital, and I wasn't going to the big city hospital. We kind of, like, my sister and I kind of compromised. We went to a hospital that was like in between the two, you know, like close to where I needed to go, but not exactly there because that's a long drive for someone who's just getting off of work. And, you know, and I thought I would get the same care no matter what hospital I went to, but I was just, you know, there but not there anyway. So apparently, no, you need to go to the big hospital that's more equipped to deal with the big situations. You know, that's my tip. If you have something going on and it's not something that your local hospital can deal with, please just take that time and that care to go to the big hospital. Anyway, so, So basically they said, there's nothing we can do. So I'm like, okay, no matter what pain I am, because no matter what pain meds they gave me, it didn't touch my pain. That's how much pain I was in. Like, pain meds that, like, they were like, oh, we can give you morphine. I was like, morphine? Like, is it really that bad? And I was like, can we do something else? And I would try to go for a lesser drug, because I am like not an advocate for pain meds at all. I've seen too many people, I've had too many friends pass away from overdoses, that I was not playing with the pain meds. Like, I never had that problem. For one, I hate taking pills. I like chewables, I like sublinguals, things that melt in your mouth. I do not like swallowing pills. So I was never a candidate to, to be on pills. But, but even whenever I was like, okay, I'll take the oxys, it wouldn't touch my pain. Like, I was in severe pain. I never went through anything like it in my life. So I just went home, and it was like, as long as I laid down and did not move, I was okay. And so that's what I went home and did. I laid down for a month at the risk of getting blood clots and everything else. I laid down and did not move. And I had a constant, like, achy pain. But as long as I did not move, I was okay to deal with that kind of pain. The only time I moved was to go to the bathroom. Honestly, self-care went down. Like, it was not a thing for me to not bathe. I was funky. I was a horrible hot mess. Nothing like anything that I would ever be for myself. That's how bad I was. So January finally came around, and I was so excited to finally be able to discuss surgery options, because I was over being in pain. And so I went to my appointment, and and she showed concern for the constipation, and she was, just continue to try to take, laxatives and stool softeners and stuff like that to try to get that going. She gave me a surgery date that seemed far away, especially when you're dealing with pain. This is January, and she said, the first opening for surgery would be around Valentine's Day. And I'm like, is there any way to get that, moved up? And there was nothing, but she did, tell me, and my mom, and I felt for my mom, because I looked at the symptoms I was having and how I wasn't exactly fitting into any boxes. Like, I wasn't fitting into the right boxes for diverticulitis, because people felt better after they took the antibiotics. I never did. I continued to feel pain. And then for the fibroids and stuff, I had lost 50 pounds by doing nothing. And so, like, my mind, I was already there thinking, there might be a cancer aspect. But whenever she said the word to my mom, I just felt for my mom, because, my mom just lost a third of her world. I don't know if I ever told you about my mom, but when my mom married my dad, who is a black man, her family disowned her. And so the only family that she had were us three girls that she had with my dad. And the only extended family she had, was her three grandkids between me and my sisters. So, that was her whole world. And when my sister and my niece passed away, she literally lost a third of her world. So even though, like, I, studied myself for, the word cancer to be brought up, my mom was not ready for that. Like, my mom was ready to check out right then and there whenever she said that. But, she assured my mom, most cases is benign. But we're going to give her a tumor marker test. But we also want her to meet with a gynecological oncologist, just because you're dealing with masses, and they might be better equipped to handle, taking out masses. Especially because my mass was like 11 centimeters. And I was completely bloated. Like, even though I lost 50 pounds, like, stomach-wise, you would not think that I lost 50 pounds because my stomach was huge. It was so bloated and hard and, anyway, it was a mess. So she did try to do a biopsy, but the mass was so big that it had pushed my uterus up, and so she wasn't able to get the biopsy. But part of the biopsy said that it could cause cramps, and it was painful for them to try to get the biopsy. It caused pain. So when I went home, I thought nothing of starting to feel the crampiness, because I thought it was because of the biopsy that they tried to do. So so the next day I was cramping up. Well, then I went to the bathroom and I felt that constipation again, where I feel like it's coming out, but it's not coming out, that constipation. And then immediately after that, as soon as I laid down, my stomach clenched on me, a painful clench, and it would not let up. I didn't know what was going on. I thought, this is it, my bowels perforating. And what that means is, like, I thought my stomach was exploding. I thought my stomach was exploding. I was terrified. I was in so much pain. And I tried to call my sister. It went straight to voicemail. I tried to call my mom. She didn't pick up. So I called my son to go tell my mom, because he was right beside her. Not right beside her, but the rooms are right beside each other, to go in there and tell my mom that I need to go to the hospital ASAP. I don't know what was going on. I thought my stomach was exploding. My mom is not the person. She is not your go-to person to call in an emergency. My mom has never been the go-to person to call in an emergency. When I went into labor, she checked out. I had to wait for my sister, the one who passed away. So it's like, I didn't even have my sister, the one who usually comes and calms everybody down. I didn't have her. So my mom checked out, but she called 911 because she's like, I don't know what to do. I can't move her. She's in pain. She's on the couch. She's been going through this kind of pain. She's been in and out of the hospital. Like, I need an ambulance. They didn't feel it was an emergency. So the ambulance didn't come for like an hour, and that whole entire time I was in constant pain for 40 to 45 minutes. That pain lasted 40 to 45 minutes, where I couldn't move. The slightest movement and the pain would just get, like, my stomach would just clench up even more. So it was like trying to hold still while my body was clenched and in pain. And it was 40 to 45 minutes nonstop. But that was not an emergency. That is not considered an emergency. They didn't come with lights blazing and sirens wailing. They came almost an hour later. And they helped me get dressed. And as soon as I moved, I felt like I was going to vomit. They helped me walk to the gurney. And by the time I got to the gurney, I was vomiting. And the ambulance ride, they did not turn on their sirens because it was not an emergency. And when I got to the hospital, they put me into the waiting room because they did not consider it an emergency. I don't know why. And I get emotional because what I know now is that I was probably the sickest person in that room at the time. And it was like,
It's like having a bomb in your body and you don't know when it's gonna detonate. And that's what was going on at the time. So while I'm waiting, I have an app that I can see the test results of whatever I get lab work wise or CT scans or whatnot. And as I'm waiting, a couple of the tumor marker tests come in, and one of them was elevated for cancer. And so I was writing my family, and I was like, I just want you to know that my test came back and it's elevated, so there's a possibility that I have cancer. But the nurses, and I have a cousin who's a nurse, and she's a gynecological nurse, so that's like even better to have in your family. And she was saying, don't go by those tests, they're just blood tests, they're not surefire proof that you have cancer, and a lot of times the test can be off because you do have fibroids. So that made me feel a whole lot better. But they took an x-ray and they took another CT scan. Now, the last time I took a CT scan was November 26th, and it showed that the mass off of my ovary was 11 centimeters. So this is January 4th, whenever I'm taking this second CT scan. And the mass was now 22 centimeters. So it doubled in size in a little over a month. And that was concerning. But then the doctor came in and he was saying, oh, we're going to give you antibiotics because you have a urinary tract infection. I'm like, I said I probably had that since whenever I was, when I said I was going to the hospital because whenever I peed, it hurt. I probably had it since then, but they did nothing because they were like, why are you still coming here? Anyway, so he said that, and then he was going to give me, more drugs for the pain and send me back home again. And I said, well, what about the constipation? Because I told you, I thought my intestines exploded. Like, that's what I was afraid of, because, the constipation was terrifying me at this point. Because it's been so long and nobody's, since November, early December, I've been dealing with constipation. And it's like nobody cared, like nobody. And he like looked surprised and like, oh, there's a constipation issue. And then he saw that, and then he prescribed Miralax and sent me home. And I was, once again, I felt defeated. And I remember I wrote to my PCP, my primary care physician, and I wrote to my my gynecologist that I was dealing with at the big hospital. And because the pain didn't go away, like I feel like if my pain had gone back to that dull, achy pain that I was feeling since November, if it had gone back to that where I could just lay still and get through, I would have been fine to wait till February. But it wasn't that. Like, the pain felt like at any moment my stomach was going to split apart. And so I wrote them and I told them about the pain that I was feeling and what had happened with, the emergency room and the constipation that I was having, and that the constipation was getting worse and worse, and how worrisome it was. I wrote to my primary care physician, and my primary care physician, took all day to get back to me and said, I could prescribe you another laxative, but said that I should talk to my gynecologist. But before I even got that message, my gynecologist had called me, which I'm very thankful for, because finally someone took me and my pain seriously. And she said, You're my patient. You go to the big hospital, to the big emergency room, and you refuse to leave because you should not be in that kind of pain. You're a patient of ours. And just told me, right now, go to the ER. And so that's what I did. And I had another scan done because they have better equipment. Their equipment's more updated. So they did another scan, and the doctor said that it was very worrisome for cancer, and that I was going to get admitted, and that they were going to, two things, deal with my constipation. They were like, you're impacted. We're going to deal with that, and the pain management. Anyway, so the pain management, they're the palliative team. And she's like, do you understand what palliative meant? And I was like, the only way that I know is that, like, people who are on hospice who only have a year left to live are in palliative care. And she's like, most people think that, but it, she's like, the pain that you have, she's like, I understand your concern about opiates, but I also know that you don't want to be in this pain. And I'm telling you that the pain that you have is not going away without opiates. So, yeah. So I had to, come down off of my moral high horse and say, this is something that I need right now. And let me tell you, pain management is a wonderful thing. Because, like I said, like, I even took oxys, and I would never have wanted an oxy before, and the oxys did not touch my pain in the dose that they prescribed through the hospital and stuff, like, did not touch the pain. And so pain management, and it's like, finally I felt like energized. I finally felt energized, like I was finally able to have enough energy to comb my hair out, brush my hair out, because that's another story for another day. And so at the end of the day, they did a biopsy of the mass off of my ovary, and it was cancer. And they were able to, clear out my system so that constipation wasn't an issue anymore. And I got a colonoscopy, and they found cancer there. And so I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Like, I thought it was ovarian cancer. No, it was colon cancer that had spread to my ovaries and other places. And that's where I have been. So on one hand, I can say I was on this weight loss journey, and I lost almost 80 pounds. But it's really nothing to celebrate, because it's not any way that any person should lose that amount of weight. My body is fighting against me, like. And so, I lost this weight, but it's like, that's what I've been dealing with this past year. That's why I haven't really been on here, just tremendous grief of my sister and my niece. And I feel like, whenever you're dealing with, like, stress and that unprocessed grief, it does make these issues come up in your life. So, like, not saying that it caused my cancer. I'm just saying it was the, the stone that was placed on the pile that really, set things in motions, where it presented as pain, and that I needed to seek medical attention, and finally found cancer. But thank you for listening to my story.